Hey guys, this is Postdoc Chronicles week number 131, and today we're featuring this game from the minds of, the genius and Edmund Macmillan, who also did the Binding of Isaac series. So if you don't know what Mr. Meat Boy is, let's go through the introductions. As you can see here, it's playing on the PS Vita. And basically, it's a hardcore platformer, but it's basically made. The team is called the Team Meat, but I think the concept is the idea, like I said, is Edmund Macmillan. Okay, and I'm featuring this because there's the sequel which we're gonna show, but here is Meat Boy. So this is Meat Boy, okay, and I believe this is this is Bandage Girl. She loves Meat Boy, okay, and then I can't read. I hope you can read it. But this, of course, is Dr. Fetus. Okay, this is the Dr. Fetus. Nobody loves Dr. Fetus, and that's why Dr. Fetus hates you. But then most of all, he hates Meat Boy. Okay, and basically, I can't read anymore the script. But basically, yeah, he wrestles with the Meat Boy, and then eventually, just like the premise of a Super Mario, he kidnaps a Bandage Girl, the love team of Meat Boy, and then so now what Meat Boy will do is he has to save a Bandage Girl in all this. So let me remove the volume right here. So he will save Bandage Girl from this insanely crafted levels, and then Meat Boy, since he's a meat, and then the level is like full of change and all these things, he's very vulnerable. He's dead right away. So it's like the game is basically some hardcore platformer along the veins of something like Celeste, The End is Nigh, and all these things, Cuphead, for example. But it was like a Super Meat Boy who, like, one of the things that started it all, hardcore platforming that harkens to the age of NES games, the platforming games that we know in the NES, like Ghosts and Goblins and all these things. But aside from that, I'm also showing here on the Nintendo Switch, because this is a recent release. I'm showing here the Super Meat Boy Forever. Okay, and here we're gonna hear the story from the narrator himself, so that you'll see what happens, because now they have a child.
This is Meat Boy.
There's Meat Boy.
This
Bandage
is
Girl.
Bandage Girl.
I believe they have a child called Nugget.
Well, this is Nugget.
Yes, that's right. It's Nugget.
Their little bundle of joy. Aww. This is
Dr.
Fetus.
Fetus.
He's not a real doctor. Wow. One day, while our heroes were enjoying life, Dr. Fetus attacked them.
And then he kidnapped Nugget instead of a Bandage Girl.
When our heroes came to and couldn't find Nugget, they knew what they had to do.
Okay, so the sequel is called Super Meat Boy Forever. So like what we did with the PS Vita, let us lower the volume very quickly. If I can do it with one hand, okay, I just did. Okay, so this is Super Meat Boy Forever, which is unfortunately is not on the PS Vita anymore. By the way, the original Super Meat Boy is also on the Nintendo Switch, but I'm showing here the PS Vita because that's where I played it first. But essentially, Super Meat Boy, the sequel, the difference from the original is, instead of like a platformer where you control Super Meat Boy. By the way, in here you can also control Bandage Girl as well. You can choose Bandage Girl as a playable character, because basically it was Nugget who was kidnapped. But the main difference in the game mechanic is that this is now an infinite runner. So in other words, Bandage Girl, or if it's Meat Boy that you want to control, they run automatically. So sort of something like Temple Run or Cannabalt, all this infinite runner stuff. But they run on their own, and then what you do is you control them via jumping through walls, essentially very similar to something like a Super Mario Run on the Android. And yeah, a lot of people hated that because they expected it to be like the original, but I welcome the change, because if I want if I just want to play a platforming Super Meat Boy where I control a Super Meat Boy freely, then I just go back to the original. There's no change in mechanic. It gets old pretty quickly, because in the original there are like hundreds of levels here. So So it's good that they introduce a new mechanic in a Super Meat Boy Forever, and like I said, I welcome the change where you have an infinite runner as well. And then I believe there are like, I'm not sure how it works initially, but I heard something like it being randomly generated, or I think there's like a very huge plethora of handcrafted levels, and then per level it is picked randomly from those. I'm still not sure because I haven't I haven't spent a lot of time playing this, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. The infinite running mechanic, the automatic running a la Super Mario Run is a very welcome change indeed, and yeah, it's a very cool. And of course, in the original Super Meat Boy, if you remember, you can get like some hidden levels with their own themes, like a Game Boy one, a level that looks like, I think it might have been something that inspired the End of Night, which is another game on the Nintendo Switch. But anyway, guys, yeah, this has been Super Meat Boy on the PS Vita, which you can also play on the Nintendo Switch, and the sequel, Infinite Runner, Automatic Runner, however you want to call it, Super Meat Boy Forever on the Nintendo Switch. But anyway, let's go to a postdoc now. So last Wednesday, I presented to the exotics group our Maverick Top study based on the paper in early 2020, where you have a heavy VLQ, basically a vector like a quark, which is a top partner, heavy top partner, decaying into a dark photon, which will eventually which will eventually decay into a lepton pairs, and then depending on the values that you choose, there could be a parameter space such that the branching ratio of the dark photon is 100% going into E plus E minus, which is basically what becomes the electron jet. And again, this is something that you can read in the original paper in the Maverick Top, and Deepak was really interested. So Deepak showed this to me last year. Like I talked before, Deepak is really interested with the topology of a lepton jet. So we have some grad students who are doing now the phenomenology study based on some UFO files that we got from the original authors themselves. And then eventually, if the phenomenology study is promising, just like what I said in the talk in the exotics group, then we can proceed with actually doing the analysis within Atlas. So in fact, they said that the from the exotics group, when they listened, they said that they were really interested. And then if we have some new results or some good news that will come out of the pheno study, then they would like for us to present or hear more in future exotic meetings. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, that's the case right there. And then in the qualification tasks, what I did, so I'm now beyond the 1 year mark, so I need to finalize my qualification task note. Deepak just mentioned in our meeting, just now in our weekly meeting, that the checklist of a QT is basically not set in stone, because it really depends on what they want you to do and the status of the tool available as of the moment. Because for example, right now I saw an existing bug in Pythia 8 regarding the dire mode for the Parton shower mode. When you do a soft QCD, it gives you an infinite loop. It doesn't work basically. So so that, and even the Pythia authors recognizes this error. They know that this error exists. So that's something that it's beyond my control. So even though it's part of the checklist of the QT, then I have no control over it, because it's an inherent bug present in the 3, even in the 8.303 version of Pythia 8. But what I'm doing so far is so like I said, I'm writing the QT. Hopefully before the end of this week, I have like a full PDF QT note that I can now send to like Louis and Ewelina and Giancarlo, Andy, and Simone and Chris, all these people from the PMG, and have a look at that. And then I'm also preparing, because one of the tasks that I did was that instead of the job options, I prepared where the dire and Vinci options are within the job options themselves. They said that I should include an external Python file that anyone in the future user, if they want to use dire and Vinci, would just to include that Python file. So even though that Python file would only include like one line, for example, if you do like a dire, it doesn't have like a lot of options in there as opposed to a Vinci. So that Python file containing dire will only be basically a one Python file, which I'm gonna call whatever I want, and it will only contain one line that basically turns on the Parton shower mode that activates some diare basically. Okay, but yeah, they wanted something that is separate from the job option files, so that people wouldn't have to, people not familiar with Pythia, for example, wouldn't have to search what the syntax is for diare and Vincha. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna prepare this external Python files, and then hopefully, if the diare, the issues that we have, and then I heard the Pythia authors are also planning to, there's an upcoming update that will also update Vincha essentially. So if once those updates come in, then basically the merge request for these external Python files containing diare and Vincha commands would be pending, so that they will be merged eventually. But yeah, so that's basically the goal. And then finally, in the PMSSM, we have this. So in the MC SUSI, I mentioned before that the validation plots look very nice. But then in a certain SLHA, the 81, I forgot the number, the 4-digit number. In the MC SUSI, there are plots where the R21 files are consistently lower than the R19, which is weird, because if you have the same number of events, if there are like differences in one bin of the histogram, then some of the events should. So example, if R19 is higher in bin number 1 compared to R21, then you expect that in some other bin, R21 should be higher than R19, because in the end, the area under the curve, the integral should correspond to the, or should at least be proportional to the number of events that you have depending on how you normalize the plot. But yeah, I'm not seeing that R21 is consistently lower. And the weird thing is that it is appearing in MC SUSI, and Deepak said, when I showed it to Deepak, he said I might be missing some events, and that's basically what they said as well. Judita, what she also said, and initially she said maybe it's from normalization, but then I showed her the other plots. The other plots were fine. It doesn't have the behavior that I found in MC SUSI, and I told her I normalized them exactly the same way. So if it's in if the problem was normalization, then that shift of R21 that we saw in MC SUSI should also appear throughout the other plots, but that's not happening. The other plots look just fine. So it's only in the MC SUSI analysis that we're seeing these problems, mostly in the eta distributions, in the multiplicities of the leptons and all these things. We have the mismatch. And so what we're looking right now is, because what I was doing is using the guess option in merging, just like the old one in R19. I model it from the old one, and then Judita advised maybe try looking at this thing where instead of just indicating guess option for the merging, we tell MadGraph what our final states is. So, for example, and for a particular SLHA, we're generating fifth around order of 50 different final states. So it would be nice instead of putting guess, I can set up something that will indicate or tell MadGraph what the specific final state is. So maybe it will solve that mismatch. And then there's also Deepak also told me that there's this a thread in right now in PMG, so I'm still gonna look for it, that also has something to do with this missing events from R19. So I'm gonna look at that and hopefully solve it. But anyway, guys, yeah, this has been Postdoc Chronicles week 131. I'm gonna see you next time. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.